It's a victory Monday for some of us today. A full recap of the Bison beatdown in Brookings, plus a wild weekend in high school football and college ball. Overreaction Monday starts now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Izzo.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to that's exactly how we expected it to go edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls. Good morning, KMBN in Rapid City and Inforum.com. Happy Overreaction Monday on this final Monday of October, the 27th. Halloween is coming up. We will end the week in the best way possible with the 6th annual Izzo Candy Rankings. We got some national attention on this a few years ago when the Nestle Crunch people were upset with us because it's not Nestle Crunch, it's just Crunch. So we've got that coming up on Friday. Looking forward to that. I've been looking forward to doing this since the season began. It is a victory Monday for my favorite football team. Roll it, Eric. The Jets playing the Bengals yesterday. New York coming in 0-7, right? The owner of the team blasting Justin Fields. Well, the Jets go out and play like this yesterday. They're down 2 touchdowns, but no one told Breece Hall. He gets into the end zone. After the 2-point play, it's 31-24. Of course, the Jets allow a touchdown. But Breece Hall was a man possessed yesterday. He gets loose and scores. It's 38 now to 30. Jets decide, hey, you know what? We haven't won a game. Let's go for 2. Watch Fields tap dance here forever. Hits Isaiah Davis, the former Jet. We had jackrabbits all over the place doing stuff yesterday. They initially say nope. They review it. No, he's in. It's 38-32. Love Aaron Glenn's. Jets get a stop on defense. Fields here hits the first down. On a 4th down play, it's 1st down and goal to go. How about some tricky Jets? Hall's is he gonna throw it to the back of the end zone to Mason Taylor for a touchdown? And the Jets take the lead at 39-38. Now they got to make a stop on defense. They haven't done that all season long. Here, the pass knocked away, and the New York Football Jets finally win a game. The flag is coming back out. It's been banned for at least a couple of months. The New York Football Jets win it 39-38. We'll plant the flag here back on the set, at least for the week. How about that? That was a game they had no business winning. Woody Johnson, the owner of the team, full-on blast Justin Fields, saying it'd be nice if our quarterback could complete a pass. Fields admitted after the game, post-game press conference, that he spent part of the week in his closet crying, just how terrible this start has been. Long waiting there. I will, full disclosure, when the Jets hired Aaron Glenn was one of my all-time favorite players when he played for the Jets in the early 90s. Loved him. I was excited about this, knowing full well what he had done with the Lions, and then they start the season 0-7. Which tied for the second worst start in Jets history. I'm watching the end of the game with one eye on it. One eye I'm talking with the Jackman because I'm like, they're not going to win. And lo and behold, they score 23 points in the fourth quarter. It's not what the Broncos did last week. The Broncos scored 33 in the fourth. But we are off the schneid. We're not going to go winless. I've experienced 1-15. I'm all set. If it's 1-16 this year, they got one for me. That was fantastic. Congratulations. Finally, we can do the Jets chant, which we'll do before the show is over. So with that, we welcome you to our Monday morning show, which was already packed to begin with. We didn't need the Jets winning to add on to the excitement of what we got coming up here over the next 2 hours. Of course, we'll get fully into what happened on Saturday night in Brookings, North Dakota State, with an emphatic blowout. Any other adjective you want to use to describe how the game went down on Saturday, you can use. The Bison win it by 31 points over South Dakota State. And there's already been overtures, and I knew this was going to happen. I was talking with some people before the game as the word got out, and we reported on Bison Game Day on the Pete Thamel story that was leaked Saturday morning that Chase Mason was less than 50-50 chance of playing. It wasn't even starting, or parsing through tweets is how precise and pedantic we got with this. There is a certain section of Jackrabbit fans, I would even say South Dakota media, that said, well, how would this game have gone if Chase Mason would have played? Last time I checked, Chase Mason doesn't play defense. And then the argument will be, well, if the Jackrabbit offense is on the field, that means the defense is on. Stop. Just stop. There was no resistance to the Bison offense on Saturday night. I don't want to hear that, right? I'm not being a Bison homer when I'm telling you he can't play D. And the guys that did play D were not very good. The Bison offensive line did what they wanted to do. We're going to show you later in the show that opening drive of the game, 16-play, 84-yard drive. The crowd is roaring. It was a great environment, and the Jacks couldn't get off the field. And I said it late in the week, and I said it in a couple interviews, and this is one of the rare times I'm going to give myself a little pat in the back. Nobody was talking about the Bison have the best player on the field. They have Bryce Lance, and no one stopped him yet. And guess what? Nobody stopped him on Saturday night. 5 for 103. And anytime the Bison wanted him to get in the ball, they got it to him. The one play, the interception that Peyton had, he overshot him. Right? Every other time when they needed to get to number 5, they got it to him. That, to me, still seemed, we're talking totally about the SDSU quarterback, and rightfully so. He's a good player, but Bison have this guy sitting there. And I understand somebody's got to get him the football, but just that to me seemed asinine, maybe, that we weren't talking about him enough. But we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. Let's get through the NFL yesterday. Obviously, the Vikings had their meltdown on Thursday night. The Bears lost to Snoop Huntley and the Ravens. The Lions were off. That left the stage for the Packers last night in a ultimate jersey matchup with the Steelers. And, of course, that meant Aaron Rodgers facing off against Green Bay, which we've seen this before. The Jets had a chance. Of course, he got hurt. Meanwhile, we mentioned the Jackrabbit theme continued last night. Tucker Kraft was sensational for Green Bay. This play, Jordan Love just throws it up, and Kraft comes up with it and rumbles here for 50-some yards, just getting Steelers injured in the process, which reminds everybody that anytime you wear mustard jerseys, it sometimes doesn't work out. It was great to see Christian Watson back, making his 2025 debut after the ACL tear to end last season comes up with a big play. We had Jackrabbits and Bison standing out on Sunday Night Football. Here's Kraft on a slant play for his second touchdown of the game. That put Green Bay up by 10. And you can't get in the front of this guy. How many times did we see that over the last couple of years of his time in Brookings? Packers go into Pittsburgh. They beat A-Rod and the Steelers by 10, 35-25. Green Bay improves to 5-1-1 on the season. The updated standings in the North. Packers are way out in front now with Detroit coming off its bye. Of course, the Lions and the Vikings this upcoming Sunday. Then you have the Bears at 4-3 and the Vikings at 3-4, fully ready to turn the reins over to J.J. McCarthy coming up next Sunday, which I can't wait for our show next Monday to see what this unfolds for the Lions and the Vikings with a game in Detroit. But awfully impressive. Green Bay was humming last night, and they're going to be tough to beat. I mean, we even showed Micah Parsons what he did last night against Aaron Rodgers. If you want that, you've got every other ESPN show to do that. But we wanted to highlight the Jacks and the Bison that were standing out in the game last night. But impressive for Green Bay, now 5-1-1 and leading the way in the NFC North. Last thing before we get going here, we got a ton to get to on this Monday. While the Sunday night game was starting, I was watching the Wolves play last night, home opener for Minnesota after a so-so road trip that started off with a nice win in Portland on Wednesday. Friday night, I'm not sure how many of you watched the Amazon Prime game, the Wolves played the Lakers. They had no resistance for Luka Doncic, who apparently got injured in that game because Luka's going to be out for a couple of weeks now, so we will not see him later this week when the Lakers play the Wolves. They play terrible with a capital T defensively. They had no resistance in the game. They look like the Bengals against the Jets, frankly, on the game Friday night. So now Indiana last night, and of course the Pacers are a shell of what they were last June. Tyrese Halliburton is going to miss the season with the Achilles tear. Miles Turner is gone. He went and signed with Eric's Bucks. So this is not the same team we saw push OKC to 7. Well, don't tell that to the guys left over, because Indiana pushed around the Wolves last night, who were wearing their throwback jerseys with the trees. This is all you're going to see of Anthony Edwards last night. Little step through. He left the game. You'll see here again, he was bothered by his hammy on Friday night, left the game with a hamstring injury, and did not return. That's not a sight you want to see for Wolves fans. That's what you don't want to see either. Pascal Siakam stealing it and laying it in. Put the Pacers up by 4. Nas had a slow start to the year. Here, this is what you need to do. Step through and finish. Put the Wolves up by 5. You're also going to need Julius Randle to be like he was in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. That's a fabulous finish down low. Wolves are up by 9. Now under 4 minutes to go. Aaron Nesmith. Remember how many big shots he had in the postseason last year? Drills a 3. Pacers are down by 5. Back comes the Wolves here. Julius Randle creates the space with the arm extend. No foul there. Puts Minnesota up by 7. Indiana keeps hanging around, though. Ball gets stolen away from Mike Conley. Siakam will launch a 3 and nails it. Now it's a 2-point game. Remember, Indiana came in and won this game in overtime last year. They needed Jaden McDaniels. Again, if he's going to produce offensively, Wolves are going to be tough to beat. He scores. Wolves go on and beat Indiana 114 to 110. Siakam had 33 last night to lead everybody. Randall goes for 31. Dante had 17. You're going to need him to make some shots as the Wolves get to 2-1 on the season. No rest for the weary. Wolves play tonight against Denver. That's a Peacock game tonight. So this is, again, you have to get used to the new NBA TV schedule going forward. So Peacock has games Monday. NBC has games Tuesday. ESPN has games Wednesday. After the calendar turns, Amazon will have games on Thursday because Amazon has NFL right now, obviously. Friday, we'll be back with ESPN. Saturday will be between Peacock and ABC. And then Sunday night, NBC will have basketball once football is done. We'll give you the full tutorial once we get closer to 2026. But most important thing is the Wolves play tonight against Denver. And if Ant's leaving the game with a hammy, I don't feel great about him playing tonight, but we'll see. You're going to need this time last year, Julius Randle couldn't do anything, and it just clicked after he came back from injury in February and was great up until the series against the Thunder. He's going to need to be great again this entire year, frankly. The Wolves didn't do enough in the offseason to change things up. We have a packed show coming up for you here on this Overreaction Monday. Our guest lineup is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll salute our best of the weekend like we do each and every Monday at 9:20. At 9:35, our guy Sam Herder will join us to unpack what he saw in Brookings. He was at the game on Saturday night. Get his thoughts also on Montana's big win over Sacramento State. That was on national TV on Friday night, and a couple other talking points out of the FCS weekend as we head towards Week 10. November football is right around the corner. At 10 o'clock, our guy Jeff Kolpack will be here to unpack the Bison victory, deliver his 3 stars of the game. And what this means going forward, the Bison now have 4 games left in the regular season. 3 of them are at the Fargo Dome. The other game is at UND. So the Bison will not leave the state of North Dakota for the rest of the regular season, and one can surmise maybe the rest of the year until the FCS championship game. I'm in that camp. Even if the Bison go 3-1 down the stretch with a loss in Grand Forks, I think they've sewn up a top 2 seed. 11-1, I don't think they can be pushed off of that. And you can say, well, what if Montana or Tarleton go 12-0? Tarleton would earn the 1 in that case. Montana has a non-D1 win. That has to account for something, in my opinion. And what's their best win? The best win Montana has right now is over UND. It's a good win, really good win. I just think that would counteract that, in my opinion. That's where we're at. But we'll find out. The next set of rankings come out next week, next Wednesday, November the 5th, which is obviously prior to both the Brawl the Wild game and the NDSU UND game. I don't think it makes any sense, but no one consulted me on that. Before we break, our poll question today, because we'll give you the results on this before we wrap up the show. For those that were interested to watch the game or even just heard about the score of the game Saturday night, how surprised were you with the Bison Jacks result? Very, a little bit, or not at all? We already got 50 votes. We just posted this thing at the start of the show, so people are ready to discuss it, which we will do in full as our show plays out. I will give you my vote. Very. I thought the Bison would win. I said 27-21 for our score, but I did not see 38-7. I don't even know if the most ardent Bison fans saw 38-7, but that's what we'll break down here over the next hour and 40 minutes or so. So we're glad you're joining us. We'll take our first break. We come back. We'll salute our best of the weekend. Some dynamite performances in high school ball, college ball. That's coming up when we come back right after this. All right, we do our best of the weekend each and every Monday. I'm going to wait for that all year. That's our best of the weekend. We can wrap this segment. We got so much to unpack here. Let's start. We're following the game Saturday night in Aberdeen. The Dragons are facing Northern State. Tough game here. We previewed it last week on the show. MSUM. You get this one, you might set yourself up for something special at the end of the year. Come into the game 5-2. Northern's 5-2. Dragons are off a bye, right? Remember, first time they've had a bye week. Lockway hadn't had one in almost 20 years. So they threw the kitchen sink at Northern, and it was a dandy of a game. We're going to pick the game up third quarter. MSUM trailing at 31-28. Northern State just goes into the end zone for a touchdown. Ensuing kickoff, here's what happens. Mikhail Pearson, the pride of DGF, gets loose. Look out. 97 yards, breaks into the open field. He's gone for a touchdown. Dragons take the lead at 35-31 on the road here in Aberdeen. They got nobody there to support them. Fourth quarter, Jack Strand rolls out. That one caught. Gage Florence, guess who? Touchdown. Dragons are up 11 on the road. It's 42-31. But, of course, Northern would rally. This field goal from Jeremy Caruso with 9 seconds left ties it up at 42. So we go to overtime. Wyatt Block gets in from 12 yards out. Wolves in front. It's 49-42. So the Dragons have to score. Strand just with a flick of the wrist to the end zone for a touchdown to Florence. It's 49-48. Lockway says, we're going for 2, and we're going to go for the win. Love this. This is repeated throughout the weekend. Strand's pass, though, tipped and incomplete. And Northern State beats the Dragons 49-48 in overtime. Watch again. Had a man over the middle, but the play was tipped. And Northern gets a huge win. Heartbreak Hotel for the Dragons, who fall to 5-3 on the season. What else do you say about a game like that? You got to tip your hat to Northern. Steve will join us tomorrow on the show. I know he's going to say we put ourselves in position. We're up 11 halfway through the fourth quarter. You got to win the football game. And that, unfortunately, has been a common refrain this year. They got up double digit. They were up, 3 scores against Mary. They were up 3 scores against Minot. Both of those games end up coming down to the very last play of the game. This time up 11 against a better team like Northern, and they couldn't close it out. Strand, for his efforts, 25 of 41 for 379 and 3. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns in the game. So he combined for 5 scores. I don't even know if Cole Payton was the best player in South Dakota on Saturday night. Might have been Jack Strand. No solace today as they come up on the short end of a loss to Northern State. Unbelievable game. Speaking of unbelievable games, shout out to, and they're not related, Jacob Strand. What a game he had for Barnesville in their semifinal matchup with Pelican Rapids on Saturday afternoon. No surprise, Barnesville's going to go play for the section championship. They ran for 475 yards against the Vikings. Jacob Strand, the sophomore quarterback, scored 6 times. 6 touchdowns as Barnesville beat Pelican 66-30. Defense optional, Brian Strand. 66-36 the final in Barnesville. Strand goes for 152 and 5 touchdowns and tacked on an 89-yard kickoff return touchdown all in the first half. He also had an interception on defense to give Barnesville the win. The Trojans move on. They'll play, shockingly, Hawley in the 8AA championship game early Friday evening on a Halloween. Now, there's going to be some trick-or-treats between those two coaches with Peter Natz and Brian Strand, 2 of our absolute favorites on this show, and they will once again play for the title. Congrats to Hawley. They knocked off Frazee, the top seed in 8AA. I got plenty of emails over this last week. We just didn't have time with all the attention of the marker game that Frazee got the 1 seed but didn't play. I think they played 5 Class A schools this year. I don't care for that, but I got other high school beefs coming up, which we'll get to in our high school football rewind before we say goodbye today. Congratulations, though, once again, Barnesville humming. Last thing for our best of the weekend. Out in Jamestown, we had the North Dakota Cross Country Championships over the weekend. No surprise, the Hillsboro girls won again and won easily. Claire Grindy, who you saw win, 5 track championships last May in Bismarck, helped win it for Hillsboro. Just same old on the side there. Hillsboro Central Valley claimed the team title on a tiebreaker over Bowman County. What a day it was to run out there. 8th grader Claire Grindy, second year in a row, took home the individual title, winning run of 18 minutes, 29 seconds. I mean, look at it out there. It was 60 degrees for the final weekend of October in Jamestown. She was sensational. Caroline Anderson, another 8th grader, ran 18:50.6. 7th grader Kayla Mock went 19:41. Seriously, 8th and 7th graders going out there and winning for Hillsboro Central Valley. Congratulations to them. No surprise there that they were the top team to win on the girls' side. Owen Hintz won from Bismarck in the Class A boys. Won in a time of 15 minutes, 27 seconds. He was also named Senior Athlete of the Year. As Bismarck won the team event with a total of 39, 3rd consecutive team title for Bismarck on the boys' side in Class A. So another North Dakota fall championship in the books. We've put golf to bed, tennis, boys soccer, now cross country. Only got a couple left now. Swimming, football, volleyball over the next handful of weeks to crown fall champions. And then we're, as I said to my son this morning, we're on to November. Congratulations to all the fantastic athletes out there this weekend in Bismarck. We'll break early because we come back. We got plenty to get to with our guy Sam Herder. We'll break down what we saw this weekend, the future for the Jackrabbits without Chase Mason. We'll get into that and much more. Hot Mike back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Off and rolling here on an Overreaction Monday. We'll do our high school football rewind about an hour. Got a lot to unpack there for what happened over the weekend. Okay, well, we've been waiting enough time to get into what went down Saturday night in Brookings. Number 1, North Dakota State with a 38-7 win over second-ranked South Dakota State. Our guy Sam Herder joins us each and every Monday at 9:30 to rip the lid off things, as Ron Burgundy would say. So I'll let you rip the Band-Aid off for Jackrabbit fans. What do we make of what went down Saturday night?
Yeah, I think, there was the Chase Mason injury kind of overtook the headlines a bit going into that game. And then I think once it was known, probably late Thursday into early Friday late Friday into early Saturday, that it was known that, he was unlikely to play. I just feel like maybe that took the air out of things a little bit. And that's as far as the anticipation for the game. I wrote that even if he was fully healthy, ready to go, I don't think anyone was beating NDSU that day. And so even if he was in there playing, I still think NDSU would have won. But without Chase Mason, I mean, the offense would have had to do, something out of the ordinary. They were very limited, and the defense would have had to play their best game of the season, and they probably played their worst defensive game in 3+ years. And so it just wasn't a good day for South Dakota State. And, I think there's a chance that they can, still be okay. They'll have to get healthy. It sounds like they could be without a few key players. I think Chase Mason is expected to return. Probably could hold him out this week and see if he can be good to go in a couple of weeks when they go to South Dakota. I know he had a walking boot on, and it seems like he might be a ways away from returning, but I think maybe that was just to kind of make sure things are stabilized and healing well, because he might be dealing with a couple of different things in his foot, lower leg area. But his return is going to be massive because Luke Marble was very limited, but he was also going up against the best defense in the FCS, so it was a tough task for him.
I know you wrote this for your poll column on where we're at with NDSU now, as I would have to imagine a heavy favorite to win this thing, and they still have a game in Grand Forks, and they still have a game this weekend. And Kyle Emanuel and I were talking about this on our post-game show Saturday night. This sets up as a perfect trap game for Youngstown State. They had the emotional win in Brookings. They got the huge game in Grand Forks. And by the way, here's a 5-3 Youngstown team that's got a pretty good quarterback as well that you just can't overlook who's coming to the Dome this weekend.
Yeah, I think it is easy to look ahead to that UND game.
Yes.
That's going to be a massive showdown. But there is one more test, I think, coming this week to NDSU. And I mean, the final 2 games, you like the Bison there at home versus Northern Iowa and St. Thomas, but 2 more ranked teams coming up, and could really pad, the playoff resume with 2 more wins. But, going to UND will be a tall task. And Youngstown State, like you said, Bo Brungard is a dual threat guy. I mean, you got to wonder if maybe he's running on fumes, just how much they use him with his legs and his arms. But in the past, those type of dual threat quarterbacks have given NDSU some problems, and this is a game right in between 2 rivalry games, and so maybe a trap game. But I've said in the past that if a game is called a trap game too many times, then it turns into a point where it's not a trap game, because it'll get into the Bison locker room of people saying, "Oh, this could be a trap game." And so I wrote it too. Like, NDSU is just so loaded on both sides of the ball, and they seem to have that laser focus about them, where it does seem like it would be difficult for anyone to beat them this year.
I look at it though, Brungard had some damage against the Jacks, and he did something to UND, and that's something I guess for Bison fans to certainly be aware of once the game comes, because he can beat you. He's a talented player.
Yeah, and there's, a lot of names in that conversation for the Walter Payton Award, and I think Bo Brungard's name, belongs, in there, whether he's top 3, top 5, I don't know, but his dual threat abilities are just, crazy. And, like two games ago, he had 500 total yards, and he had like 30 carries for like 200 yards and 300 yards passing. And so he's getting it done. And, even if the pass protection isn't always there, he has a way to wiggle out of that pressure. And so he's definitely a problem that NDSU will have to contend with.
All right, so let's start with the Jacks. You and I have been doing this all season long, and there have been, warning signs, is that maybe too strong a word when you look at how they played against Youngstown, how they, I thought, messed around, frankly, with Murray State, even though I know Mason came out of the game early in that one. There were just signs to me, Sam, that they were so reminiscent of what the Bison were doing in 2022. They were finding ways to win, but it wasn't pretty, and then the dam broke Saturday night.
Yeah, South Dakota State kept on winning without, you could look at it from a couple of angles. They weren't playing their best football.
No.
And they were still winning games, some of them, rather decidedly. And so you could look at it as, well, once South Dakota State puts it all together, then they could be really, really good. But you could also look at it from the other angle of, well, at some point, this stuff is going to catch up to them. That was, an offense that was kind of, spinning its tires at different points. The ground game wasn't super explosive. Offensive line has had good moments, but also some other moments where they just couldn't get, a good push. And then kind of the same thing defensively. There were times when they were absolutely dominant, but there were other times too where they just gave up too many explosive plays. And I think we saw that this last weekend against NDSU, where I thought there were times where South Dakota State's defense looked good and put NDSU's offense in difficult situations of 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, but then the Bison would convert those sometimes with relative ease. And then offensively, without Chase Mason in there, NDSU is going to sell out to stop the run. And when you do that against an offense that was already kind of struggling to run the ball, it just wasn't going to be a good day for South Dakota State's offense. And, I do think they have a chance to, like I said, turn things around. They have to get healthy, but things are setting up where they could go 3-0 down the stretch, and then they go to UND in the regular season finale. And if Chase Mason is back by that point, which I think he will be, as long as he doesn't re-aggravate some of his injuries, that could be a 50-50 type game. And so South Dakota State still could finish 11-1 and be a top 3 seed, top 2 seed if other results go their way, or they could finish 10-2 and they might have to hit the road in the quarterfinals at that point.
Yeah, to me on the Drake game, we talked about that too. That was a game they didn't hammer. Drake isn't one of the best teams of the Pioneer Football League this season. Just there were too many, at least to me, signs that something was not just humming along like they had been in the past. To your point on what they have the rest of the way, Illinois State is in there too, and I know they haven't beaten the Jacksons 6 years, but Illinois State's, I don't know, some nights they're great, other nights they get their doors blown off, so who knows what to expect there, but it's not just a simple stamp it here, because the game in Vermilion too is weird. We remember a few years ago they had the Vermiracle down there. There's just some things that you're very right, true. They could go 11-1, or they could be 9-3, and we're having a whole different discussion when we get to Selection Sunday.
Yeah, a lot of that is dependent on, whether Chase Mason, or not whether, but when he comes back. Because if he's still sitting out when they go to South Dakota, that could be a 14-7 ball game right there with how the offenses have.
And they're also without Lofton Ogroski got hurt in the game. He caught that touchdown pass. He didn't come back in the game. Chase Vantoy, who's their best linebacker, got hurt. So it's not just Mason. There's other guys that got dinged up that they're gonna. Who knows when they're gonna get back?
Yeah, and those are, you could argue, 3 of their most important players. Because I think Chase Mantola is probably their most talented defensive player. And then, Chase Mason, quarterback, that kind of speaks for itself. And, Lofton Ogroski is their playmaker at wide receiver. They have had some other guys step up and make plays in other games. We obviously didn't see that this last weekend against NDSU. And coming into this year, I think depth was the concern for South Dakota State, because the reason I had them highly ranked, because you looked at, you project what their starting lineup would be, and you go, okay, they actually have a decent nucleus coming back, and they brought in some nice transfers, and so they could have a really good season. But if they get beat up, what do their linebackers 4, 5, 6 look like, and what does their wide receiver room look like? And once injuries start to pile up, then that's when your concern hits, especially when you have the roster turnover that they've had. I think now is the concern of, okay, what is this depth going to look like down the stretch here?
All right, so now let's focus on the Bison side of things here. With this win and how impressive it was, what do we look at now for where North Dakota State could go from here?
Yeah, I think we're at a point just with this performance, and I wrote it too, and I said it earlier, that even if Chase Mason was good to go, I still think NDSU would have won, and I picked NDSU to win by 10 last week, and at that point I thought Chase Mason was going to play, and so they just look full steam ahead, and I think it is at a point where it is NDSU versus the field, and I think we kind of felt that way after NDSU dominated, a team like Southern Illinois in the second half, where it kind of started to trend that way. But it was also like, well, they have to go to South Dakota State, they have to go to UND, so we'll see what happens there. And just with how NDSU's offense, dominated South Dakota State's defense, it's going to be really difficult to see a team knocking off NDSU. And I've, seen comments from other fan bases too, including Montana and Montana State, which are two passionate fan bases and confident fan bases. A lot of them are saying like, nothing matters. We're all playing for second place. Like, and they're probably right, but that's like, it's not ideal for the FCS to be in that situation, because it's never going to be a wide open field in the FCS where there's 8 teams good enough to win the national championship. But you would hope there would be 3, 4, maybe 5 teams in the best case scenario that are good enough. For it to be one team versus the field isn't ideal. But I mean, if we're just being realistic here, like NDSU just does look that much better than everyone else.
So you made it to the end. I did not, of the Montana Sac State game, which again looked like two teams that were just messing around on Friday night. We had some special teams mishaps, and Montana's got some elite offensive talent. Eli Gilman, obviously, we know how good he is. Michael Worth, we saw him play at Eastern Washington at U.S. Bank Stadium, and he was the best player on the field for the Eagles that day. Has become a real threat for the Grizz now. It's going to come down to this, and I talked about it at the top of the show, and this will lead into a bracketology conversation because we're almost November, so we can do that now. If Montana ends up running the table, Tarleton does as well, and the Bison get tripped up, who is left out of the dance of the 1 and 2 seed in that scenario in your mind?
Yeah, I think it could end up being Tarleton State in that scenario, but it also depends on, like, if UND wins out and Montana wins out, those are your top 2 seeds right there. So you would have to seed UND ahead of NDSU and South Dakota State. I mean, you would have to seed Montana ahead of UND. Assuming the Grizz went out because of the head-to-head, and UND would have the head-to-head over the Bison and the Jackson. So you could be looking at Montana 1, UND 2 in this scenario, and then then it's NDSU and Tarleton State at 3 and 4. And so, like, in some years, there has been that wiggle room where NDSU could drop a game and still be a top 2 seed. There are scenarios where the Bison drop a game and they move out of the top 2 seeds. Or, like, NDSU could lose to UND, and then South Dakota State beats UND, and you're kind of in that circular firing squad like we saw last year. So there's a lot of different scenarios that could play out. But NDSU, I mean, they're going to have more ranked wins than anyone else, and they'll have a pretty good strength of schedule, and so you do have that going for you if you are the Bison. But no doubt, it's not a guarantee where you drop one game, everything's fine, you'll still be a top 2 seed. That's not guaranteed just based off of who you lose to and then what else happens.
Because I think for Tarleton's sake, their last challenge is this weekend, and Abilene's fallen off. That they get through that, they're going undefeated. They'll be 12-0 with an FBS win. They have to be at least 2 in the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what happens. I mean, how would they stack up a 12-0 Montana team versus a 12-0 Tarleton State team? The Grizz would probably have a couple more ranked wins, but Tarleton would have one more D1 win. I think this weekend could be an interesting game because Abilene Christian, in my opinion, has to win out.
I agree.
To keep their playoff hopes alive, and it's a home game for Abilene Christian. They had a bye week this last weekend. I believe it's homecoming for ACU, and so, I mean, this could be, like you said, or probably is the best remaining contest for Tarleton State, and they still have to play Austin Peay, who's also currently ranked. But yeah, if the Texans do go 12-0, I mean, they'll have a couple of ranked wins. In FBS win, and their strength of schedule is pretty good. Just looking ahead at their projected year-end strength of schedule, it's 29th in the FCS. NDSU's is 23rd. Montana's is 27th. Like, if you're all in the 20s, like, it's pretty much on par with each other, and so they are going to have a good resume. This isn't a 12-0 team coming out of the Big South OVC or the Southland. Like, the UAC is pretty good, and Army has been a pretty good FBS team as well. So it's not like they beat 0-12 UMass or whatever for their FBS win. It is a pretty good one.
Couple more minutes here with Sam. I've been beating the drum like you have for the Ivy League. Harvard keeps winning. Can Harvard earn a top 8 seed if they finish unbeaten?
I think they'll need a lot of help, like Monmouth dropping a game or Lehigh dropping a game, Tennessee Tech dropping a game, which I don't necessarily believe any of those teams will. Monmouth has been without Derek Robertson, their All-American quarterback, with a left shoulder injury, so that's something to keep an eye on. But Mercer, Harvard, if they do finish 10-0, I mean that's two or one less Division I win than everyone else. Their strength of schedule is going to be in the 80s. They're not going to have any ranked wins. If they do beat Dartmouth this weekend, that would be a quality win. But I just don't know if they'll have that resume that would stack up against some other teams in that top 8 discussion.
All right, before we get to your spotlight games for the weekend, who's the team maybe we're not talking about enough that's coming on that could have a big November?
I think UC Davis. They're quietly sitting pretty good. Right now they're undefeated versus the FCS. They're getting really good quarterback play out of Caden Pinnick, who's just a redshirt freshman. He did sit out this last weekend. I believe it was just a sickness matter, but their backup came in and played just fine. And they should have an opportunity to finish 9-1 versus the FCS. The one loss is probably going to be at Bozeman, but they have a nice strength of schedule in the top 10. So I think UC Davis could make some noise. And when they do play Montana State, that's a week before the Brawl of the Wild.
Right.
And so that's always kind of a tricky, quote unquote trap game for Montana State. So I do feel like UC Davis is built to maybe make some noise.
I'll just go back to that game with Mercer that didn't count, how big that could be for them if they were able to win it, or if Mercer was able to get it. Each of them said, boy, that would be a huge win for our resume.
Yeah, and Mercer is hot right now as well, and they have that loss to Presbyterian that sticks out like a sore thumb, but they also had a different quarterback in that game, and they made a switch, and Braden Atkinson is probably alongside Caden Pinnick for the Jerry Rice Award. He's been a really good quarterback for them, and so Mercer is also a team that's hot right now.
All right, let's give us your spotlight games. What do you got going on here for Week 10?
Yeah, we mentioned the Tarleton State at Abilene Christian game. Tarleton State is, like we said, in the running for a top 2 seed, but in my opinion, Abilene Christian needs to win out to get into the playoffs at 8 wins, because if they lose one more game, they'll be at 7 D1 wins, and I just don't know if that's going to get you in this year. UND goes to South Dakota. UND has been laser focused this year, but going to USD, who also probably needs to win out to make the playoffs, that could be a tough contest for UND. Youngstown State goes to NDSU. We talked about that one. Another ranked matchup for NDSU, and Youngstown State is playing very well, so that's an exciting game. And then Dartmouth goes to Harvard. We'll see if Harvard can keep on winning, but Dartmouth is probably looking like that number 2 team in the Ivy League right now. Dartmouth might have a pathway to finish 8-2 overall if they do lose this game. Is that good enough to get an at-large bid? If the bubble's weak, then maybe the Ivy League gets 2 teams in. I don't know, but even if they do lose to Harvard, being competitive in that game, I think would go a long way. If they get blown out, then maybe the Ivy League doesn't get that second team. But that's a fun one, and it's fun too because now we're paying more attention to the Ivy League because what happens in that game is going to impact who's the 7, 8, 9 seed, and so that'll be one to watch for sure.
Let's go! Not only one Ivy League team, give me 2 in the tournament. Come on, let's do that. Great stuff as always, bud. Thanks for getting our week off to a fantastic start. We'll talk next week, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Sam Herder joins us each and every Monday at 9:30 to give us the lowdown on everything FCS-wise. That's a great point he brings up on UND in the mix here as well. Because if the Fighting Hawks go and beat the Bison and beat the Jackrabbits, UND would be 10-2. Its 2 losses would have been basically at the horn to Kansas State and at the horn to Montana. That's an awfully impressive resume. Now, if they get tripped up in one of those games, if they lose to the Bison or lose to the Jacks at 9-3, then you're likely a 7 or 8. And I know Sam tweeted this out, and we'll get into this probably more when his first bracket comes out, and I'm buying coming up later this week as well, that you're going to have a scenario where you're going to have 2 to 3 Valley teams on one side. I know nobody likes that. I hate it. But I don't know how you're going to do it this year, frankly, unless there's some results that we don't foresee happening take place. Like South Dakota beat UND on Saturday, which, by the way, I threw my lot in with the Coyotes that I think they beat Illinois State. What was that? I even said it. USD I didn't think was very good. And USD could lose 2 or 3 more. Coyotes have the Fighting Hawks this weekend. They have the Jackrabbits after that, and I know that game's in Vermilion. Then they still have a game, I believe, in Carbondale to end the year. So they have 4 losses now. They could be 5-7 to finish the year. For a team that was preseason picked 4th in the country, That is not ideal, as we like to say around here. All right, we're overdue for a break. We'll take one now. We got a couple emails to get to. We got Jeff Kolpack coming up in hour 2. Get his takes on what we saw Saturday night in Brookings at our high school football rewind. I already got plenty of stuff to talk about there. That's coming up. We come back on Hot Mic right after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. Our thanks to Sam, as always, for giving us some good stuff there. Let's get a couple emails in here before we wrap up the first hour. Let's go back. Dom, best of the weekend and no love for the Horace Shanley football game? Well, that's coming. We'll do that. We've got our high school football rewind, which was a bonkers game, Big Sky kind of game, however you want to say it. We'll do that coming up in just a little bit. Let's do 2 more here before we wrap up the first hour. This last NDSU-SDSU game looked like a team that follows a coach's example. The Cole Payton 58-yard touchdown run. Dan Jackson is going nuts about a missed call, and his players don't finish to the whistle, instead whining, and we all see the results. Also, did I miss him mention the Bison D being a reason for the result? If he's talking about Dan Jackson there, I don't believe he alluded a whole lot much to the Bison defense in that game, which, like I said off the top of the show, to me, was quite good. And again, you're going to look at, they were facing the backup quarterback, his first start for the Jacks. Yep, that's again, if Chase Mason starts in that game, I don't see that. Tell me, the Jackrabbit defense got how many stops to start the game? First 3 drives. I believe the answer is 0. When the crowd was at its feverish pitch, which we're going to show you here in just a little bit, like they did nothing in terms of resistance. How much is Chase Mason valuable for? 10 points? Okay, so it's 38-17 we're talking about. 13 points. What are we talking? I don't know how much of a difference he is in the game. 2 touchdowns? Okay, so it's 38-21? Still decisive. We'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. Jeff Kolpack on the other end of the bend to give his thoughts on what went down in Brookings and look ahead to the matchup with Youngstown State. That's coming up on the other side of the break. Hot Mic Hour 2 begins after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo. It's that time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2. I forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
All right, our guy Jeff Kolpack joins us each and every Monday. His appearances are brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Last week you came up here, your feet were up, prediction king. I know everything about what's going on. Ready to rub that. You know how many people came up to me on the sidelines in the fourth quarter, like, oh, what are Kolpack thinking?
No longer Nostradamus, am I? No longer. Lasted 1 whole week.
You know what? That's the best part about going out on a limb and making a pick.
Well, sometimes you got to pick an upset. I took the email bashings on the way home as Mike was driving, appropriately so.
Yeah.
But that's the first time they've looked like that offensively in Brookings, and that's not even close.
No.
They never have had a drive that was 84 yards in 12 plays that took 9 minutes. The previous long drive, in looking up, was in 2007 that went for a touchdown. Like it was some, I had it in the story. I can't remember, but it had been that long since they.
Say the only time I've seen them play like that, 2011, they won 38-14. The Bison won.
That was here, though.
No, that game was in Brookings.
No?
Yes, 2011. That was my first trip to Brookings. Was 38-14. And that was more defensive and running the ball. They weren't as offensively dominant as they were, I thought, Saturday night for what they did. But that was, it was 31-7 at halftime. And I'm looking at myself like, this is over.
When I made the pick, it was on Tuesday when they have to be in, and I thought Mason was going to play.
So let's start there because I have a beef on that. So I'm on the field, obviously, because we're not doing the game. And the Bison staff, everybody is waiting to see who's going to come out. And obviously Luke Marble comes out. Mason doesn't come out at all for warm-ups. And all the Bison, the GAs, they're all writing it down. He comes out in a boot. He came out in a boot, Kolpack. That I have a massive problem with Dan Jackson saying he's day-to-day. He had no intention of playing this week. It's 2025. We have injury reports going out in the major conferences. Stop this baloney. Just say it. He's not playing this. I don't like the whole subterfuge thing is so dumb in 2025. I don't get it.
Even talking to one of the Bison defensive assistants, they thought he would give it a shot.
Yeah,
and I'm talking
we all did.
Minutes before they came out on
Carlton
warm-ups.
Littlejohn standing right next to me looking like waiting for him to come out and play. And he didn't. He came out in that. That just to me was it's asinine. I don't understand it. Like what was to be gained from that? That they were somehow going to trick NDSU into that this wasn't going to happen?
Well, evidently it didn't work.
No. And if you're in a boot, you're not playing next week either. I don't think there's any. And why would he? Frankly, it's Indiana State. That if the Jackrabbits can't beat him with Marble or Jack Henry, whoever's going to be the quarterback, then they got bigger issues than worrying about the Bison. Frankly, in my mind, that to me, I just didn't understand it.
I see your point.
You know,
and are more coaches forthright in the NCAA football in doing that, or is this still going on?
Now they have to be at the biggest, like the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, SEC. They have injury reports now, and that's a whole other deal because it relates to gambling and the amount of money that's being spent there. To me, let's go. Get on board. It's 2025. Say the guy's questionable. You know what, Policy, and I'll give him credit for this, and this is not me kissing up to him. He'll tell us on Tuesday.
Yep.
He'll say he's doubtful.
He brings it.
Right.
He writes
he's
it down.
questionable.
Yep.
Or he has a good chance to play. So when we come to Saturday, like there's no, whoa, that guy's not playing? I had no idea. No, that does not happen. I'll give him the nod on that. We're never left. And I guess, for the SDSU insiders to say, well, yeah, we knew he wasn't going to play. How did you know that? Because Jackson wasn't saying until
and Mike's calm and
that's what I was going to go
tipped
to
off
next.
Thamel?
Correct, because Pete Thamel's stories. We're getting ready for Bison game day.
Who does he have connection with
on
at South Dakota
Saturday
State?
Morning. Well, I'd imagine
the head coach,
an agent, correct,
or
the
agent.
agent of the head coach to say, hey, you want to get this out there on Saturday morning at 9:00 that there's a good chance maybe our starting quarterback isn't going to play. Well, I mean, come on. I just don't get it. Maybe I'm being pie in the sky guy, but it's 2025. You can say if the guy's going to play or not. You know what I mean? Like literally, I could give you the entire playbook. You wouldn't know what to do with it. I wouldn't either.
Oh God. You could give me the playbook and explain what's in the playbook,
right?
And try to make it in layman's terms, and I still really wouldn't know.
Don't get it. All right.
Okay.
Let's start with the drive. 16 plays, 84 yards after the Bison get a 3-and-out. And Polisic, actually, I could hear the conversation he was having with Randy Hedberg about what they wanted to do, whether to start with a crowd or take the win. They started obviously right by the SDSU student section after they forced a 3-and-out. And we're going to show you all 16 plays, Jeffrey. It was a thing of beauty how they started this football game.
Well, let's see it.
All right, Eric, let's roll it. So they started off, pounding the football with Barika Penu and DJ Scott. First play there. Goes for 6.
This was the best sequence of running plays by the running backs in this drive.
Peyton goes.
And DJ
Scott
out. Got a lot of work early for the first time this year.
Another play here to Barika out of the backfield. Picks up 4 there. I mean, again, the time that Cole had. Steps and throws, hits Bryce for a first down. I mean, and we'll talk about Bryce Lance in a second because he was unstoppable. Here's play number 6. Barika right up the gut. Gets a couple. SDSU's run defense, I thought, got more stout as the day went along, but this one to Raj. I mean, we talked about how big he was in the game last year. And he was not shy about talking. And Cole scrambles here. It's just methodically down the field. Another one. Here's DJ Scott you were talking about. This one was his first game breaker that he got there for DJ Scott. He gets 11. Next play here. Now they're at the Jack 32. Goes for 6. I mean, they're not stopping him at the line of scrimmage. This was the first time after that he went for 1. Then, here, Barika goes up the gut there. Got about 2. This is the first time now that the Jacks fired any resistance. Now Barika, this was for 10. Just every time down the field. Now they're at the 20-yard line. Got down to the 10. This one for 7 for Barica. That was first and goal. Now it's second down and goal. Peyton takes it here. I thought he was going to get in. Gets down to the 1. This one, I'm still not convinced he wasn't in. I thought he stretched out of the goal line. They said he was short on third and goal. So it's fourth and goal from the 1. There was no hesitation. Peyton gets in, touchdown. 16 plays, 84-yard drive, results in a 7-0 lead.
Seems similar to something we saw in 2013, although that was late in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Kansas State.
Yep. So
I believe that was 16 plays, was it not? 80 yards?
18. It was 18
plays, 80 yards, 9 minutes.
So the clock, the Bison got the ball with 14:11 to go in the first quarter. They kicked it on. They gave it to the Jacks with 5:11. Little 9-minute drive that goes 16 plays, 84 yards. And then the crowd was instantly out of it. And what happened after that? The Jacks went 3 and out. Bison got the ball, went right down the field, and scored again.
Again, if Chase Mason is there, do they go 3 and out every time, the first 2-3 times? So that may have changed the narrative a little bit, but it wouldn't have changed the game narrative.
How much is he good for? 10, 14 points?
Yeah, I heard you say that.
So what's the score then? 38-21 then we're talking? I mean, it's still a decisive Bison victory in that because last I checked, Mason doesn't play defense, and that was the thing that was stunning to me. Like, the Jackrabbits defensively have been super stout the last
But my
handful of
point
years.
is they score, then when you go 3 and out, your defense doesn't get a chance to rest at all.
Correct. And
So
but to me, that was the thing. You gave the check mark to the Jack defensive line. They got pushed around on Saturday night. The Bison O-line was really, really good. I thought, and again, Polisic said afterwards he wasn't thrilled with how, because I think as the game went along, SDSU firmed up defensively up front, that the holes weren't there. But, I mean, whatever NDSU wanted, they got Saturday night in my mind.
Yeah. Cole Payton, how he is not Offensive Player of the Year or the week in FCS is a little of a mystery, but I mean, I guess the Bison got the Team of the Week by Craig.
Well, today, you know what's more important to Cole? The Senior Bowl came out with a guy that's stock up. Cole Payton's on that list because that's a conversation.
Now he is an NFL. That makes him an NFL prospect.
Correct, That's
right
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The 4 NFL scouts that were next to me on the sideline are looking at this guy, and now obviously if the Senior Bowl has caught attention to that. Now we're going to have a conversation not just about Bryce Lance, about February, March, April. We're going to be about this guy too, about what his potential could be at the next level.
Yeah, still number 1 in passing efficiency. Just continues, and he's doing it in the big stage too. This is not Murray State. This is not Indiana State.
No,
he's doing it against these
SEMO,
nationally ranked
right.
teams, and on the road too.
I want to ask you something about this because I got 2 emails, and we're going to go into your 3 stars. South Dakota State's offensive strategy to start the second half. Can you explain that to me? Because I have no idea what they were doing. Deliberately running the football. There was no
hurry up.
No, there was no essence of, hey, we got to go. Like, they were trying to establish the run here. It's 31-7. What is happening?
Well, maybe they're just trying to reestablish some sort of.
But you got to go
control,
here, right?
well.
Because you know full well what the Bison are going to do with the football, that they're going to be deliberate with it, there was no sense of urgency, Jeffrey. I didn't get that at all, what they were doing in the second half of the game.
I don't have that answer. I don't know.
It was just, that to me was quizzical on, I don't know. If you're trying to win, it seemed like they called off the dogs kind of early to me. I don't know what they were doing offensively trying to get back into that game.
They have a guy who probably has trouble throwing against that defense, and so you got to try to establish something. And just not real confident that the backup could throw against NDSU. You got to try to do something.
I know, but it's not like it was 31-7. In the 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, like that was. Yeah. And look, the play-by-play here to start the second half for SDSU, what they got, rush. They threw the ball once on that drive before they ended up having a. And that was with 10:27 to go. That was after Peyton's pass was picked, right? So I'm like, all right, it's 31-7. Here we go. We got 10 minutes to go. We got a ton of football left.
Well, and this came on one day before Goddard and Kraft scored touchdowns on Sunday. They just don't have those athletes that they did with those NFL guys that I didn't see. Ogrovsky's a really good receiver.
Yep,
I think he has a chance.
He got hurt during the game.
But he's athletically, I think, can rank up there.
Do they have those kind of guys? No. They still have talented players.
Yes.
That, to me, they didn't get the ball to any of them, which
But they didn't have the Tucker Kraft guy. They didn't. I didn't see that guy.
Frankly, they don't have the offensive line like they had in the past either.
And it's hard. They got guys in the NFL.
Yep. And they lost guys in the portal. I get it. But to me, the offensive strategies, I guess, is what I'll harp on. I didn't understand that. All right, let's do your 3 stars here. Of what you got for this weekend.
Do I do my 3 starting from the bottom up?
You do however you want. It's your segment.
Well, let's go number 3. I said the Bison linebackers, and I'm doing that as a position group because I couldn't distinguish one from the other. But all 3, they led the team in tackles, 1, 2, 3. And as Tim Polsick said, they were gap sound. They just controlled that. You remember, who was it? Was it second play of the game, Pierre Strong, when he broke that long run?
2021,
yep,
second play of the game.
That was a gap problem.
Yeah.
They didn't have that issue this time around. And so that was a big, especially early in the game. I thought the linebackers were tremendous.
I thought Kopp was great. Thought Staling was huge. I thought Donovan Williams was flying around the field. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so second star Bryce Lance, that first half was an NFL guy. And especially on third down, and especially that back shoulder throw that was like 3rd and 12. And, there's one of the early ones. He almost broke it. But
he was upset he didn't break it.
I'm hoping we have that 3rd and 12.
It's the next one right here.
Okay, watch this. I mean, that's pretty well covered.
Yeah, there's 2 guys there.
Yeah.
He zipped it into his helmet. Is the only place he could catch it. So 5 for 103. Kolpack's just marveling at the play here. You're supposed to be talking here.
Well, and you mentioned that, the one guy we didn't talk about all week, really, was number 5.
No. And I'm not quite sure how we missed that or who missed that, but yeah, he was pretty darn good. All right, number 1 seems
obviously
pretty
Cole
obvious.
Payton, the total yardage, both running and passing. The interception was, it was down to the 1 yard line. It was like a punt. But, God, he was just such in control again. And the speed and the ability to just make plays, I almost thought he scored there.
I think he took off just a little too early on that one. I mean, that's a brilliant pass. Gary Kessel making another play down the field.
And he's throwing so well over the middle. And that's one thing we didn't really see. Well, we didn't see a lot of throwing coming into this season. But that's the mark of a really good quarterback is, and that's how Cam Miller got better as he got older, is can you throw the ball over the middle and see the coverages? Yep. And he's obviously doing that at a very high level.
And the point now where, you got to pick your poison now on how you want to stop this guy. If you want to say, okay, we're going to make him throw, all right, well, he's got this group of wide receivers.
Southeast Missouri tried to do that early.
Or say, okay, we're going to try and, get him out of the pocket. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out for you when he's faster than pretty much any linebacker or defensive back on the field.
And bigger in a lot of
Certainly
cases.
that as well. All right, we'll break. We come back. We got a bunch of emails to get to. Get Jeff's thoughts on that. Look ahead. The Bison have a fairly athletic quarterback they got to face this week in Youngstown State's Bo Brungar. That's coming up. We come back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Much more with Jeff Kolpack here. All right, we got a bunch of emails coming in. You ready to take on these?
No.
What do you mean, no?
Let's go.
They're ready to talk to you, man. This is our, you know, of all the segments we have, you know which our highest rated one? Right now. I'm not saying that because you're here, man. So you
all right.
You got low energy. Let's go. Come on.
It's a long weekend. 2 days in
man.
Brookings.
It was 2 days ago. Let's go. I had 2 hours of sleep. I'm here. Let's go.
All right.
Dom and Jeff, is USD a possible trap game for UND this weekend, or do we have no faith in South Dakota now? Is Cole Payton alone to the top for the Payton? If Bryce keeps playing like he did Saturday, is it possible to have both on the short list? Lastly, NDSU needs to extend Tim Polisiek at least to try to keep him around as long as possible.
Well, the last one, it's not. I mean, no, you can extend him all you want. It's not going to work.
I believe Kleiman got an extension his last year, and that was still.
Well, yeah.
Hey, LSU just opened up.
So as far as the Payton, I think the Robertson QB from Monmouth, I'm going to look into that this week. That's going to be my big story is, okay, who are the candidates here?
I think Jerry Kamitsky up the road at UND is one. I would put him in that list, absolutely, for how he's played. Yep. Robertson was prior to getting hurt. Him missing the last couple games, I think, hurts his candidacy. Bryce could be in the top 5. I don't think, the top 3 get invited to Nashville. I don't, that would be really hard to do.
Well, the fact that Cole has the ball more than Bryce, I think, is a big thing there.
Yep. He could be on, but to answer the emailer's question, on the short list, sure. If the short list is 5, yeah. Lastly, what do you think of that South Dakota UND game in
Oh,
Vermillion?
absolutely. Well, South Dakota has been this year. It's been really one of the more disappointing teams as far as offensively. Aiden Bauman has not had the year they thought, but he also lost his entire offensive line, so you have to look there.
Yeah, they very well could be 5-7.
UND should win that game.
Yes, UND's never won in Vermillion in the Division I era.
Well,
so
that may end.
I anticipate that. USD could finish 5-7. They really could. They still have UND. They have the Jacks coming next week, and they finish the year at Southern Illinois. That's not a layup game either. They could go from number 4 in the preseason rankings to 5-7.
It'll be interesting because the Big Sky has a lot of teams with 4 losses now, and the Valley tilts that way too. There's going to be a 5-loss team making the playoffs.
At 7-5, yeah. I think we're going to 12 games routinely starting next season. I think we better embrace ourselves for that one. I was a little surprised. I predicted 31-20 Bison with Mason playing. Once he was ruled out, I thought this was really possible. After the first 3 drives, the score is going to be whatever the Bison wanted it to be.
Yeah, they dialed it down in the second half, certainly. So,
but you know what was interesting about that? I know you're going to write about this, and we're going to have it on TV later this week. And I tweeted about it before the game because I caught wind that true freshman Ryan Babbitts was going to play at left tackle, not guard. At tackle, they moved Bo Johnson inside to left guard, and they moved Griffin Empey to right guard. And Babbitts played 28 snaps during the game and looked the part that this may be the guy going forward, a true freshman at left tackle for the Bison.
Yeah, I have a story I'm going to put up here in about an hour on that. And what Tim said after the game was pretty striking, too, that they got to move the program forward. And it's good coaching because when you're 8-0, you can always mask what you're not doing as well as you think you should. And it's easy to say, okay, we're 8-0, we're just doing what we do. But they're continuing to evaluate what they do. And so I think that's something that is part of a good coaching staff is, it was a big win, but is there anything that could be better?
I reported on this during fall camp. Babbitt started getting first-team reps during week 2 of fall camp, that they were that impressed with him. And I think it was him and Tosta to battle out for that last spot. Yeah. They went with Nate. And again, Polisic said it after the game. This is an indictment on how Nate's playing right now, but they think Nate could be better with less snaps than he's getting. And they think Babbitt's is that good. And I can remember
first true freshman since Billy Turner.
Billy was the last guy as a true freshman to play left tackle. You can end the conversation.
How about as an offensive lineman, anywhere as a true freshman?
Zabel was the last to do that during the crazy spring season. He and Mason Miller both got starts when guys went down. So again, those two guys are in the National Football League. So if we're talking that level of talent, I can tell you this, Jeff. I did the story when he committed. The amount of coaches that reached out to me that I know in the Twin Cities to say this is an absolute steal the Bison got. I'm not sure how NDSU got him. Was the same
Nebraska offered
the same kind of conversations I was hearing when Billy Turner verbally committed to NDSU.
Nebraska offered. There was 6-7 FBS offers, 13 in all.
Yeah, there were more going to come.
They got him to commit early June.
Correct.
June.
He was an early commit, so that's something to look forward to going forward on this. Going back to the Chase Mason deal, Don, the Baltimore Ravens are being investigated for doing the same thing this week with Lamar Jackson. If you missed that, Lamar was practicing, at least out on the field, doing stuff. And Eric, if you could look that up for me, I don't know if he was listed as day-to-day or probable questionable, and then he didn't play. They ruled him out on Friday when everything, I think even the betting line went to the Ravens were minus 7.5. Okay, Lamar's coming back, and then he didn't even play in the game. He didn't even suit up, similar to what the Jackrabbits just did. It's not all about, and especially in this day and age of betting, but you cannot do that. You just that to me, it's 2025. Let's get with the times.
At least he was seen practicing, though. Is that right?
Lamar was, yes, correct. My whole point on it with the Mason thing, it's just, you just list what's going on. Dom, who cares about Chase Mason? Isn't win that game for SDSU. He's not beaten anybody relevant. I disagree with that. They beat Montana State. Is he a good player? Yes, maybe. But he's not making the difference in that game. The NDSU defense is about as good as ever. Nobody has mentioned the Bison without one of their best defenders in Jackson Dutenheffer, something we talked about in Bison game
Good
day.
Point, emailer, yes.
Which Dutenheffer was, I could tell before the game, very emotional. Him and Tim Polisic shared a moment before the game that Polisic got emotional on. Something I'm going to ask tomorrow about that. I think there's a
Does he come
possibility
back?
that Dute never plays this week.
Okay.
I think there's a strong indication they're going to see Dute never back on the field, maybe as early as Saturday. What was the line, Eric, on the injury report for Lamar?
So, from the Baltimore Ravens Twitter account,
Yep.
There's been an update to Lamar Jackson's Friday practice and game status. Jackson was downgraded from a full practice participant to limited, and he has been ruled out for tomorrow's game versus Chicago.
So he went from thank you, Eric, full participant to not even playing?
But at least they announced it 2 days before the game.
But they have to. That's the rule in the
I know.
NFL. But the other leagues have it. The SEC has it. We could get this, especially if the Missouri Valley considers itself as high up on the totem pole as they do. Then we can make this happen in 2025 or 2026, whatever it is. That would eliminate a lot of the rube speculation about what is happening in the game.
Sometimes I wonder if you just throw it out there on Tuesday, this guy's starting, and the team can just not worry about not telling anybody. Oh, don't tell anybody.
Right.
And just move on with this guy.
I'm in such a favor of the SEC that they did this, and the other leagues have done it as well.
Ran into somebody Friday at the hotel who has a nephew or somebody on the team, offensive lineman, and I go, "Hey, quarterback going to play?" He goes, "Well, I know that answer," and then he left.
And then he walked away. Correct.
Were you there?
I was there.
Yes.
Yes.
He goes.
Yes.
So everybody's just like this, if you just throw it out there that this is the plan moving forward and stop all the tension on it.
We're going to have much more coming up on our Bison video blog on Youngstown State, their first trip to Fargo in 3 years. Last thing before we let you go, we got our high school football rewind coming up. Where do the Jacks go from here? Let's say Mason does come back in a couple weeks when they play USD. So they have Indiana State at home this week. They go to Vermilion. They have Illinois State in Brookings, and then they end the season in Grand Forks.
Yeah, where do they go? You need to establish a better passing game, I think. That's for sure.
I think they established their run game. That, to me, they cannot run the football.
They got one guy, Loffridge. That's
right.
it. Yeah, but if the run game is okay at this point, is it going to get any better?
At that point, I don't know. I mean,
Olkowski's your best athlete.
And he's out. And you don't know how long he's going to be out. And then Chase Van Tol got hurt, their best linebacker, on that opening drive that the Bison had. I don't know if any of these guys, when they come back, that's hard to answer. If they get their horses back, could we see them make a run like they did in 21, make it all the way to the semis? Sure. But they may have to go the long road in terms of playing 1 to 2 games away from Brookings, and that will be difficult.
The attention now is all shifted to UND.
Yes. And I think fully for NDSU, but I'm not going to count the Jacks out yet, knowing full well that program, but they got some work to do, and they may have to do it with some backups, and that's going to be tough because that's going to test how well, to your point, what you wrote about in your game day feature, how well they use the portal there. Because, the guys that stuck around are starting, but now they may have to use some portal backups if those guys are hurt.
Some backups to the backups
Correct.
from last year.
Yes. Exactly right. Great stuff as always, bud. We'll see you for the video blog coming up in a little bit.
We will see you.
All right, Jeff Kolpack joins us each and every Monday at 10 o'clock. His appearances are brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We come back. We will do our high school football rewind, including the game of the year in North Dakota, and the Spuds are rolling out as well. Much more on Hot Mike on this Overreaction Monday after this. All right, we do it each and every Monday at 10:35. We do our high school football rewind. We'll begin with what happened Friday night in the Twin Cities. The Moorhead Spuds playing their first game in the postseason as a 6A team. This is a 32-team bracket. Works its way down to 2 to play at US Bank Stadium right before Thanksgiving. Spuds were seeded 6, going on the road to take on the 3rd-seeded Blaine Bengals. And they found out when they got their horses, in terms of the Spuds, they're nearly unbeatable. That was Jet Feeney to David Mack. That's Jet Feeney to David Mack times 2. Put the Spuds up 14-7 at that point. Blaine had tied it up at 14. Spuds go for it on 4th and goal. Feeney hits J.J. Dunlap, the future Dragon, on a slant. Spuds took a 24-14 lead to the halftime locker room. Here's Mack for the hat trick, his 3rd touchdown, almost the same play. They just couldn't stop it. It was 31-14 Spuds. They would salt it away on this Tay Rich touchdown run. They're just running over guys, his 2nd of the game. The Spuds win it 38-21 to advance on to the second round. I loved how pumped up Kevin Feeney was almost as excited as his team as they get their first postseason win. So they are on now to the round of 16. They're going back on the road. And their longest road trip of the year times 2 because they already played at Woodbury, and they're going to go back and play Woodbury again on Friday night. I'm telling you, folks, they were a play away from hosting. Woodbury barely beat Egan 21-20. Egan scored a touchdown with no time left. They decided to go for 2 in the win. It got stopped, and Woodbury won. Had Egan won, the Spuds be hosting this weekend. As it is, they're playing a Woodbury team they already beat back in week 2. That was the game that Jet Feeney got hurt in to start the second half. The Spuds were up 35-14 in that game before Woodbury made it close. So that game comes up on Friday night. You look at the other matchups across in 6A. Edina moved on. Maple Grove moved on. They're in that same quadrant with Moorhead. If the Spuds are able to keep on winning, they would have a matchup with Maple Grove in the semifinals at U.S. Bank Stadium. Rosemount, Forest Lake are the other 1 seeds. They moved on. Round of 16 games coming up Friday night across the state of Minnesota. All right, to my emailer's point earlier in the show. Dom, you left off Shanley Horace as best of the weekend. Well, we didn't leave it out because we wanted to feature it here because it was a bonkers game. Before we show the highlights here, let's set you up on the background of what happened in this game. So, heading into it, the standings read Horace sit in second. Shanley was tied for third. If the Deacons won, they're in. If they lost, though, they would need Cheyenne to beat West Fargo to guarantee themselves a playoff spot. If they lose, they needed Cheyenne not to lose by 13 points or more, or West Fargo's going to the state tournament and Shanley is out. So that was the backdrop for the game on Friday night. And it was one that we're not going to forget for a long, long time. Horace got out to a great start in this game. Aiden Green comes up with a pick 6. Horace built a 13-0 lead. Jax Mattern was a man possessed on Friday night. Here he refuses to go down for a touchdown. Makes it 13-7 at that point. Dylan Otterson got loose here on this touchdown. 61 yards down the sideline. Horace is up 26-7 at one point. The Hawks even went to the air. This a 59-yard touchdown pass. Brett Livingston just waiting for it. He gets into the end zone. It's 33-13. This game is over. Horace was doing whatever they wanted. Jackson Narum getting loose down the sideline. I mean, nobody could bring this guy down. That's a 55-yard run. After Shanley got back in the game, this touchdown makes it 47-39. Back comes Shanley. Mattern gets in for a touchdown. They go for 2, and they get it. The game is tied at 47. So, of course, we go to overtime. Shanley gets the ball first in OT. This is on 4th down. Pass to the end zone is incomplete, meaning Horace now has a chance to win the game. They get stopped on 1st down. On 2nd down, Ty Garai from 8 yards out. He gets into the end zone. Garai scores the winning play, and Horace, this is another look at it, beats Shanley 53-47 in overtime. That sends the Hawks to the 2 seed, and Shanley is out. This is the playoff bracket in 3A. Century earned the 1. They will host Cheyenne. Horace is the 2 seed out of the East. They'll host Legacy. That's a rematch of a game from earlier this year. It was a 14-13 Horace win. They won it at the buzzer out in Bismarck. West Fargo is the 3 seed. We'll get 2 seed at Bismarck. And, of course, Davies is the 1 seed. They'll face Mandan, the 4 out of the West. I got more on EDC here in just a minute because how we got to the 8 teams, it's deja vu all over again. We'll get to that in a minute. Salute to the Kindred Vikings. Their first year of 2A football. All they did was go 9-0 and win the EDC. Friday night, they dominated their rivals from Central Cass in a game that it was a struggle for a bit. Luke Starcevic, though, nobody's got an answer. I mean, if it's not Brooks Bacco that's going to kill you, it's going to be the other high major FBS prospect they have on their roster here. Central Cass is hanging around. It's 34-26. This was the backbreaking touchdown for the Vikings. They made it 41-26 as Kindred wins the 2A EDC championship. They finished their regular season unbeaten. That includes a 3A victory over Horace that they got earlier this year. Starcevic, by the way, lined up under center 3 times from the 1, scored 3 times. I don't know how he's being recruited as a Big Ten offensive lineman, so good luck on that. Here are the brackets in 2A. Red River is in. Fargo South, all they had to do was beat Wahpeton in the final game of the year and have Central beat Red River. Central beat Red River, but South lost to Wahpeton. Shout out to the Huskies. They got their first win. So Red River's in the tournament, and they'll get Minot North, the 1 seed. St. Mary's is the 3. They'll play at 2-seeded Central Cass on Friday night. Kindred, of course, is the 1. They'll get 4-seeded Watford City. And Devils Lake will take on Grand Forks Central. Devils Lake will host as the 2 seed out of the West against the 3-seeded Knights out of the East. So those are your brackets in big school football in 3A and in 2A. Now, I had at least 4 or 5 high school coaches message me on Friday night after I tweeted out what the matchups were going to be that Shanley at 6-3 on the season was going to be left out. These are the final standings in the EDC. So obviously Davies won it. Horace finished second. Shanley finished with a record of 6-3, but they were 2-3 in EDC play. Cheyenne finished 2-3. West Fargo finished 2-3. But because of the tiebreaker, and remember, Shanley beat West Fargo head-to-head. But the point differential between the 3, because they all beat everybody here, Shanley lost to Cheyenne, but beat West Fargo. West Fargo beat Cheyenne, and Cheyenne beat Shanley, right? So you got the whole triumvirate there. So it goes down to point differential, and West Fargo ended up having the edge over Shanley. I understand conference record means something, but overall record has to as well. Look at the overall record here. West Fargo's going to the tournament at 3-6. Mandan is going to the tournament at 2-7. All I'll ask is, what are we doing? Are we getting the best 8 teams, or are we making it so 4 out of each can make it? And I know the answer. If our judge is to have the best 8 teams in the tournament, then we failed here. Again, this is not me on repeat from a couple years ago when Davies got left out. And again, this is going to be Dom Izzo, apologist for the East, homer for the EDC, homer for Shanley, that they should be in. That's not it. You want to go ahead and label me that, fine. I've been called worse names even earlier today. This is about common sense. Do we want the best 8 teams in or not? And that's apologies to Mandan. Todd Sheldon's a friend of mine. They did not have a good year. If you win 2 games out of 9, you do not deserve to be in the tournament. That's just fact, right? If Jay Gibson, longtime coach, they're 3-6. Yep, they beat Cheyenne. Heck of a win. They lost to Shanley. And here's the thing that is the real rub of the whole deal. Shanley beat Bismarck and they beat Century, the top 2 teams in the West. What are we doing? Somebody make that make sense for me. And I get it. The football coaches changed this. They thought that because we did top 8. We did top 8 the last couple of years. Worked pretty good, I thought. And you know what? If one year you get 6 out of the East and 2 out of the West, so be it. It's going to flip. If one year we get 7 out of the West and 1 out of the East, you know what? Win more games. I mean, To me, it seems commonsensical here, but they decided to change it, and now we got to go with this. And maybe we'll have upsets. Maybe Mandan will come and knock off Davies on Friday night. They've done that before. Mandan and Davies have a long playoff history, and the Braves have done well in Fargo. And if that's the case, I will be the first to clap and say congratulations, Mandan. Heck of a win. Great game plan. But Shanley's sitting at home, and you know what? The counterpoint, and I heard it. You know what, Dom? Shanley beat Cheyenne. Don't get blown out at home. Beat Horace. And we're not having this conversation. And you're exactly right. But they still won 2/3 of their games. I mean, we've seen this in other sports. The NFL has had this before, where a team that out of the NFC South is 8-9 and goes and hosts a game. To me, I guess it boils down to this. Are we getting the 8 best teams in the tournament? And the answer in 3A football in 2025 is no. And that's too bad. It's too bad for the guys that play at Shanley. It's too bad for teams that deserve to get in and don't, because they're part of that group and they're left out. I get it. We'll have more discussion on that, I'm sure, throughout the week. We got to wrap. We come back. I believe we have an Eliminator champion on our Hot Mic Challenge, and we'll get you ready for a Dynamite Sports Monday. Hot Mic on this Overreaction Monday. We'll wrap after this. All right, our Eliminator Challenge, I believe, has come to an end because yesterday the Jets won. I told Matt, I said on the show, be careful here. The Jets beat the Bengals. Matt's out. Brody picked the Falcons, probably a safe bet. Then we found out Kirk Cousins is playing quarterback, and the Dolphins won. The Jackman, he liked the Colts logo, so he said, Dad, I'm going to pick the Colts. And he ends up winning this thing. So there you go. The Jackman is our champ. I told him this morning. He ran into the bathroom to tell his mom. So we will have the official presentation coming up later today, and I think we're gonna start this again. I got a cool idea for the winner of it. I'm not involved in it. I had nothing to do with these picks. He's way better than me picking games, I can tell you that. So we will do that coming up. Tomorrow we'll start our next round for the Eliminator. We got half a season left. You can go into the playoffs, but thanks for everybody getting involved. Thanks to Shields for putting up the $100 gift card. Now I got to go buy $100 in Legos apparently coming up later today. Before we get to what to watch, one email came in. Dom, good take on the playoffs. Need something like a QRF, but the coaches can understand. Can that be that hard? Davies went through this exact same thing. 2021, Davies was 6-3 and left out because a team out of the West, I can't remember who, was 1-7 or 2-7 or 1-8 and made it. We can be better. We have to be better. We want the best 8 teams there, and we messed up on that. Let's do our poll question before we get to what to watch. From earlier today was on the result of the Bison Jack game on Saturday night. A little bit on who was surprised. I'm very surprised. I did not see 38-7, but we have smarter football people than me. Thanks for voting, everybody. 50% saying a little bit on the Jacks Bison result from Saturday night. All right, let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. All right, we got plenty going. That's a good sports Monday. We got Game 3 of the World Series. You know that's going on. Dodgers won Game 2 behind another complete game from Yamamoto. Scene shifts to Chavez Ravine tonight, 7 o'clock on Fox with a series tie. That game won the Blue Jays with a 9-run, 6th inning. Was fantastic. It was fun to watch. We'll see what happens tonight with Game 3. We got Commanders-Chiefs to wrap up the week in the National Football League. That's at 7:15 tonight. That game on WDAY. Just one NFL game tonight. So we're back to normalcy for everybody. You don't have a 9 o'clock kickoff. No Jaden Daniels in that game for Washington. It'll be Marcus Mariota starting for the Commanders. As I mentioned earlier, Wolves in action tonight. They got the Nuggets. That game's on Amazon Prime. It's not simulcasting anywhere else. That game is exclusive on Amazon tonight. We don't know the status of Anthony Edwards. Obviously, he left the game yesterday with a hamstring injury. If you're leaving with a hammy, and you got to play on back-to-back. I don't think it looks positive, but we'll see what happens tonight. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Sam Herder and Jeff Kolpack. Appreciate all of our emails. Everybody was great today, and even going on with me about the Jets finally winning a game. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Have a great Monday, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.